Welcome back to Drinking with Craig and Roger. I'm Craig.
I'm Roger.
We have previously done a part 1 video on Tennessee whiskey where we talked about George Dickel and Jack Daniels. And so if you haven't seen that, make sure to go back and watch that first. Now, you don't have to, but it'd be good too. This one is going to be a part 2 on 5 newer or lesser known distilleries or bottlings, companies out of Tennessee.
And the first one we want to talk about is Uncle Nearest, 1884.
Yeah.
Now, Nathan Nearest Green was a former slave who was Jack Daniels' teacher and also first master distiller. 1884 is the year in which he retired. Right now, they have a woman who is their master blender, Victoria Eddy Butler, and she is a 5th generation descendant from Nathan Green.
Wow, okay.
And she's received several awards for her work. So, without any further ado, let's try this.
Let's give it a whirl.
It's made according to the Tennessee process, which means, of course, it's filtered through charcoal before it goes into the barrel.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now, as far as we can tell, the wording on this bottle is a little nebulous.
Yes.
Articles online are saying that they sold out of their sourced whiskey and are distilling their own. But the wording on the bottle says distilled and aged in Tennessee, bottled by the Nearest Green Distillery, which would typically mean you had someone else made it and you bought that and, blended it together and bottled it yourself.
Yeah.
But some things are saying this could be their own distillate. We're not exactly sure.
It has a nice, clean nose. It's very smooth. It is very sweet.
Yeah.
And
it is sweet.
Yeah.
It's very pleasant, very sweet. You can see the color is lighter than many, and I think the body is a little thin, and the finish is a little short. Shorter than some. It's not that complex, but it is good.
It must have been distilled at a fairly high proof in order for it to have this thin a body and still be 93 proof.
Yeah, it really must. It's good. It is good.
The body,
and it's got some punch to it with the added, with the 93 proof instead of 80 or something like that.
Sure.
But
and the body sort of reminds me of the Jack Daniels No. 7.
Does it?
Yeah.
I guess it could. I don't know.
I mean the body, just how thick it is.
Oh, just the body. Okay, yeah. Because the flavor overall, it doesn't directly remind me of any others. But for the first time, I've had it a few times, and for the first time, smelling it now, I do get a little bit of that kind of what I would describe, maybe a little bit of a mineral note, sort of like a George Dickel, but not really like a George Dickel. It's not in the flavor, that's for sure. I'm not getting that banana from Jack Daniels that I would associate with it. But it's good. It is good. And it definitely tastes different from a standard bourbon, I think.
Oh yeah, it's definitely along the Tennessee style of whiskey that Jack Daniels is.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we have another one.
Yep.
This one is Daddy Rack.
What a good label this has. This is an amazing label.
Yes.
And you say you bought it just for the label, pretty much?
I bought it just for the label, and it turned out to be a Tennessee whiskey, and since we're talking about Tennessee whiskeys, let's do it.
All right.
Okay. Daddy Rack is J. Arthur Rackin, and the name Daddy Rack is what his daughter called him.
Okay.
Daddy Rack!
Daddy Rack!
And he worked for about 40 years in Europe, working with cognac and other beverages as a master blender. And now he's here in Tennessee, and he's produced his own blend, which is sourced, of course.
Of course.
But it's very small.
But he's a blender.
It's a sour mash, straight whiskey. It's all the corn is sourced from local farmers, so they didn't bring it in from California or somewhere or the Midwest. Yeah, it's double mellowed through maple charcoal, which means it's been put in 2 barrels.
Sounds like Jack Daniels.
Probably he bought the barrels and then put them in new barrels. And it's, of course, hand finished. It's batch number 01 DR.
Oh, wow.
Right, the first one. Yeah, okay.
Man. Did you get this in a store or?
Yes, I did. No, I got it in the store, and it is 3 years old.
Okay.
Which is young,
that's pretty
but
young.
in Tennessee it's a little farther south than Kentucky, so
Yeah,
it may reach a good age.
I can't, because our local distillery ASW has stuff that's 2 to 3 years, and they do not taste young. They taste well matured.
So, shall we give it a
yes,
shot?
let's do it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Come on, Datey. Show me what you got, Datey.
Oh, it's got that Tennessee whiskey nose.
Oh, it sure does. Oh, geez. Has a.
It smells a lot like Uncle Nearest.
I guess there's a type of nuttiness to it.
Oh, it's a little
almost like a peanut butter.
Yeah, there's a little more maltiness to it or something. A little bit rounder.
It's pretty good. Very, very thin body again.
Yeah.
Short finish.
I forgot to
Yeah, what is the proof on this?
80 proof.
Okay.
which,
Yeah, it's the minimum, but actually,
it's pretty nice.
yeah, it's like Play-Doh paint, and not in a bad way, but just interesting. I don't know. I guess I would say like walnut shells or something. There's some kind of a nut element in there, an interesting element.
Yeah. Oh,
It's got a hint of spice, but it doesn't
nice.
taste too young.
No, it doesn't. But it is not that expensive either. Mm-hmm. It was I think a little bit less than $30.
Okay, that seems about right. That seems about right.
Both of these, at least Daddy Rack, we know is sourced, and so there are two major distilleries, Jack Daniels and George Dickel.
We talked about
and I thought
previously.
we talked about them. Let's
quick.
try a little bit in taste test.
Real quick, all right? So we've got the Jack Daniels.
Here we go.
Let's see here. Let's see. The Daddy Rack is not. I don't think it was sourced from Jack Daniels, or I don't know. It's a lot different tasting. But
Yeah, the Uncle Nearest does not have the banana taste that I get out of the regular Jack Daniels.
yeah. And by the way, when I was going back between them, just for posterity, the Uncle Nearest does pretty much curb stomp the Daddy Rack. I liked it a lot better. Sorry, Daddy Rack.
But the Daddy Rack is a little more complex. It's got more.
It's unique.
It's a little bit more like a bourbon to me. A little bit more.
I guess.
But they all sort of have that Tennessee nose, the way that it's been filtered through charcoal. Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and try the other guy, George Dickel.
Yeah. I mean, definitely neither of these just taste like Jack Daniels. I can tell you that right out.
No, they don't. They don't. But then again, if you're going to source this stuff and blend it, you could be doing it from multiple distilleries.
That's true.
And
you absolutely
you could be doing things that come out a little different than what the normal product would be.
See, on the nose.
I'm tasting a little bit of the banana you talked about on the nose.
In Dickel?
Yeah.
Yep. Got a little bit there. You're right.
And the body is, about the same, although it's 10 proof more, but it's still, like all of these, but it has a little fuzz on the back.
Yeah, it's got the Dickel on the end. Those unique mineral, I guess you'd say, Flintstone vitamins type thing that just makes their thing, and a little bit of a peanut element.
Well,
I really can't say that either of these were sourced. Certainly not straight from Dickel or Jack Daniels. I think they stand on their own.
Oh, they would.
Even if they're getting their juice from them, it's unique product.
Someone is blending it differently than the major distilleries they got it from do.
So that's these two. Then we have 3 more that we shot at the same time that we did our first part of our Tennessee Whiskey video. We're going to kick off to that footage because we have some really unique other things to show you. It's a little bit older, but it's still good, so check it out.
The first one is Nelson's 108.
I've never heard of this one.
Well, it's Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery in Nashville, Tennessee, and they also distribute Belle Meade. These brothers, in looking at family history, figured out that their grandmother was involved in distilling, and she distilled something called Belle Meade, but when Prohibition came to Tennessee in 1909, which was earlier than the United States one, they went out of business. And then they did something else and didn't even talk about it. It took the brothers a lot of looking at newspaper articles to figure out what it was and what the recipe was. And they figured out the recipe, and here it is. And this is from the first batch distilled at the distillery in Nashville.
Okay.
It's 90 proof. It's at least 2 years old.
Interesting.
Nice and caramelly on the nose.
Oh, it's a caramel. You're right.
Maybe maple syrup.
I could see that. It's very sweet smelling.
Yeah.
In the world.
Oh, it is very sweet in the middle.
It is, and a light finish.
Fairly light finish. Yeah.
Not harsh at all. It's not like it doesn't taste young to me. It is in that, like you said, maple syrup, caramel, just a sweet, and it is smooth. It is smooth at all. No bite to it, no burn. It's 90 proof, which, is not too
And
shabby.
I think in the future, when they have produced enough whiskey that they can really sell a lot of it, because I don't think this was only available at the distillery.
Yeah.
And they were selling it in these half-size bottles because it was too expensive to sell it in a full-size
Oh,
bottle.
boy.
Now Bell Mead and the other stuff they could sell.
This
but
was
that
not cheap. If you had to guess, what do you think you paid for it?
Oh, it's probably about $35 for a half bottle.
Oh, okay. But they just didn't feel right charging people $70 for a bottle of
Well, you just
2-year-old
didn't-
whiskey.
That's about it. Something like that. Anyway, but it's a terrific whiskey.
It's really good. And it's fairly unique.
Yeah, well, it's Nashville's response to the other distilleries.
Man, I could listen. I could go there and check out some country shows and happily sip on this. All right.
Now we have Pritchard's. The last time we were taking our little tour around and looking at Jack Daniels and George Dickel, I was told that there was another distillery called Pritchard's.
Okay.
And it was not very far away, so we drove over to it, walked in, and nobody met us at the door. And we were looking around, and there was this guy at a computer. And we said, hey, we're here. And he came up, and he was Phil Pritchard.
Oh.
He actually, autographed our bottle.
That's
we
awesome.
Bought. Yeah, and he showed us the place, and it's pretty small. And he does other things. He started by making, I think, brandy in a pressure cooker on his stove. And his friends liked it so much that he expanded. So here we are. And this is a Tennessee whiskey, but it's different than one we talked before because he doesn't use the process of filtering it through charcoal before it goes into the
This is
barrel.
our first Tennessee whiskey that doesn't use that Lincoln County process.
Yeah, and he had permission to call it Tennessee whiskey because Tennessee whiskey is almost always that Lincoln County process.
Yeah.
Let's see what Pritchard has done with this.
Nice smell. Oh, interesting. It has a brighter, almost cedar type of note to me.
Well, yeah, but the overall smell is pretty much like all the Tennessee whiskeys, the dominant smell.
Similar, but
there's some
note
overtones or
that
undertones.
those like caramel type of notes you were talking about. Not so much. Nice.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Oh, it is nice.
This is really good, especially for an 80 proofer. It's got a lot of character and punch to it for something that's only 80 proof.
The only thing I can think of is I was looking at it and it looked, as I remember, he was using a pot still.
Good
He
stuff.
may have distilled it at an overall proof less than Jack Daniel or George Dickel, which use column stills. And that would give it more body, more grain, more malt, more corn taste
Yeah.
at a lower proof
Yeah.
than the ones that are distilled higher. And now this is your.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of these guys because I love ASW, our Atlanta craft distillery, and this is Chattanooga Whiskey, who is Tennessee's, for all intents and purposes, this is their ASW, who are much bigger at this point than ASW and doing a lot of somewhat similar things. They have their standard Chattanooga Whiskey bourbon. They do not call themselves a Tennessee whiskey. They do not use the Lincoln County process, but obviously it is still distilled in Tennessee. This is their standard formulation amped up. This is their bourbon. This is the cask strength, 111 proof. So this is cask strength. They are also distilling to a lower proof, much lower proof than many other places. But what really makes it distinct, and this is starting to catch on more on a national level, is they use high malt in the thing. We don't have the percentages in front of us for what they use, but it's not your standard corn, rye, and barley. Mm-hmm.
So they usually put less than 4% barley malt in it. Now this might be 8 or 10 or 12% barley malt. I don't know. It says high. So that would be high.
I think what really separates these guys from the rest of the ones we've talked about in Tennessee is there's no they're not trying to recreate formulas from the 1800s. They are doing their own thing, and this one uses yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, and honey malted barley. Oh, so they should have some unique characteristics. This is also by far the strongest one that we have tried. Let's give it a whirl. Let's just get into it, and I'm curious to see what you think. This is unique stuff.
Okay.
Cheers. Wow, just the nose alone, way different.
Oh, I didn't smell it, but I will smell it now. I smell something, and it smells like a spice, and I think pepper is what comes to mind there.
For me,
black pepper,
cinnamon red hots.
Maybe.
Cinnamon red hot candy.
Okay, I will go with that. That's sort of what I can smell there on the.
You get like a sweetness to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's, you want me to tell you what that is?
What?
You want the sweetness?
Yeah.
Sweet tea.
Oh.
Sweet tea and cinnamon red hots. This is what I get out of this.
Well, I smell the cinnamon now that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is to identify it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay.
Sweet, but boy, complex, spicy.
Whew. Yeah, it's a lot more complex than those cinnamon red hots that you can buy.
Well, yes.
But I can taste that in these, a little bit of.
It has that kind of element to it.
Yeah.
It's unique stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
They are making some interesting stuff at Chattanooga Whiskey. You're gonna have to go there.
It's terrific. It is terrific.
Yeah.
And this is actually the most distinctive. The other two,
by far,
have more of a profile that fits with Jack and.
Well, these are tradition based.
I'm going to have to say that I recommend any one of these you can find.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's a lot of unique, interesting stuff in Tennessee besides the two majors. So definitely recommend checking those out because, there's some cool stuff coming out of there. So if you like what we're doing, give us a like, definitely, and subscribe. And shoot us a comment if you have any thoughts on any of these whiskeys or there's any others we should check out or anything else you want us to do a video on, holler at us. And until then, cheers.
Cheers.
Speaking of Daddy Rack, here's Uncle Nearest, and here's a little, that's hard, a little Daddy Rack.
All right, so you're going to make Daddy Nearest.
So it's going to be Daddy Nearest or it's going to be Uncle Rack?
Yeah. Oh my God. It's actually way better than either of the other two.
It has got some nice taste to
That's
it.
a hell of a combo.
Yeah,
I like that.
Till next time.
Till next time. We're not ending the video with that.